Okay, so we're going to have a look at fitting a new battery to a Volkswagen T5 van. We've just had this battery delivered to us at home this morning. So it's currently April 2020. We're in the middle of coronavirus travel restrictions. And these guys, in combination with DHL, have been able to get this battery to us next day. So well done to them for great service. What it also highlights is that in happier times, if you were stuck on a campsite, you can have this delivery service and get a battery next day, so able to get your van moving again. First thing to notice is also the great health and safety instruction which comes with this battery. So really important, as I say, fitting a battery is relatively straightforward, but there are some key safety instructions to follow. So firstly, noting a battery is heavy. So again, if you're camping and you're wandering around in flip-flops and you drop this on your foot, you're going to do yourself some damage. So just have a think about sensible footwear. You're not going to trip over in or drop the battery. Think about your own physical strength, that type of thing, and just be very sure that you're clear on the instructions you're being given before undertaking this. It's relatively straightforward in terms of the tools you need. As we've got here, you just need some very basic tools. So you're going to need a 10mm spanner, and preferably a 13mm socket, though a 13mm spanner would do if you haven't got that. The other thing, if at all possible, is to get some mechanic type gloves, or if you're around the campsite, a set of marigold washing up gloves, something like that would be suitable. Battery, as we said, contains sulfuric acid, so you really don't want that on your hands, and also some basic eye protection, if you can get that available, would be very helpful. So we're just going to start by unboxing the battery and seeing what comes in the box. See, it's very well packaged. A repeat of the safety instructions, which again is well worth reading. Don't just cast that aside. And then the crucial thing to read here is this important label. It's to ensure that the transit plugs, which will have been in here to stop liquid spilling out, we must ensure that those are removed immediately. At this stage, it's a good idea just to check that the battery which has been delivered is the one you were expecting to be delivered, and in this case it absolutely is. And now we're going to look to physically lift the battery out. So this one particularly is a large battery. It will be heavy, so you need to be sure of your own physical strength or get somebody to help you. Usual technique, lifting anything heavy. Lift that out and place it down, and then we can carefully remove the outer packaging. So that's the battery, and then the important notice regarding the transit plugs. If we look on each end of it, you can see these red plugs, and there's one at each end of the battery, and that's to stop sulfuric acid spilling out when the battery is in transit being delivered to us. Just very carefully going to prise those out. So that's all it is, and the same this end. And we can actually dispose of those. We're not going to use them again, but we can now allow any build-up of hydrogen gas is now venting from the battery. So that's unpacking the battery, checking we've got the right one. Now we can move on to have a look at the van and how we're going to insert that. The important thing, first of all, is to unlock the van as you normally would, if that's possible, and then open the door. So always a good idea to leave a door open. If for any reason the central locking were to lock the van and you've left your keys in the van, you then create a problem. So undo a door first of all, and also ensure that the key is out of the ignition. So you can't by mistake have left it in the on position and left circuits running when we're working on the battery. So be aware where your keys are, have them about your person, not in the van, and open the door. And then we are just going to release the bonnet. Okay, so having released the bonnet and propped that up safely, We then need to locate the battery, which on the T5 is on the right hand side of the engine bay. Got the symbol there under this plastic cover, if that's still there. A lot of T5s are missing theirs, but something just like a 2p coin, quite handy just to unscrew these two clips. There's one clip there, and another clip here. Remove that completely, and this gains us access to the old battery. As you can see here, I'd written the date of when my last one was installed, so that's been in there since September 2015. Always a good idea just to write the date on it, even with just a Sharpie or a little sticker as we've done here, just so you've got some idea of the age of your battery. Okay, so what you may have noticed is the battery we've had delivered is actually physically larger than this one, and there were a couple of battery options fitted into the T5 battery compartment. It's quite a large compartment, and so depending on what engine you have, you may need the smaller battery like the one we have here, or you may already have the larger size. So this is the smaller size. It's known as an 096 battery size, and that really refers to the physical dimensions of the battery. The larger one we've just bought is an 019 battery size, which is the same height and width, but just wider, as we'll see when we insert it. But the key thing is that larger battery gives you more amp hours. So this one is a 77 amp hour battery. The larger one is going to be a 100 amp hour battery. And whilst we don't need that for starting our engine, if we're going to be using the battery to run other things while we're camping, so like lighting or anything else you might plug into your cigarette lighter, the additional amp hours is quite a handy upgrade for a T5 camper. Okay, the first thing to note, really important on this, is, as it says here in the safety instructions, it's really important that you disconnect the negative lead first. And just to illustrate why, you can see we've got our metal 10mm spanner here. If I start working on the positive terminal over here and inadvertently short out with my metal spanner between the positive terminal and the metal bodywork, we'll create a spark. And as we said, hydrogen gas can build up around the battery. If you create a spark in this environment, if you're very unlucky, you can ignite that hydrogen gas and cause this to explode, and that's a battery full of sulfuric acid, so you don't really want that explosion. So by removing the negative lead first, we then break the circuit and remove any risk of us creating a spark. So with a 10mm spanner, we simply loosen off this nut. You don't have to take it all the way off, just unwind it a few turns, and then gently prise off that lead, push that out of the way. Just be careful that these do have a tendency to pop, spring back up, so just when you're working, just check that hasn't reconnected itself. Push it down out the way. Now we can move across to the positive terminal and again undo this. Still take care not to touch the metal bodywork if we can at all avoid it. And that has now fully disconnected the battery. So the next area we need to undo is this 13mm bolt, which as you can see has a securing plate which locates over the bottom lip of the battery to hold the battery firmly in place. So a 13mm spanner, you can get that in there, so that is feasible. So if that's all you've got, that'll be absolutely fine. You can get a 13mm spanner in there and move it. If you've got a socket, as we have here, obviously that just makes it a little bit easier. Now this one you do need to take out completely. So once you've loosened it off, you can then undo it with your fingers and then just lift that plate and bolt out. And we're going to put that somewhere safe so we don't lose it. Okay, so the next thing is we're going to physically lift the battery out. And as we've said, you need to make sure that you are confident in your own physical strength to do this. If you're unsure in any way, don't attempt it. Also, before moving the battery, have a good look, check it's not broken or leaking in any way. If there's signs of liquid, that's likely to be sulfuric acid, so you certainly don't want that dripping on your hands or down your legs as you lift this out. First thing to do, there's a lip like this at the back of the battery, and that's located under a little metal channel. So the first thing we need to do is physically move the battery forward slightly, and then this battery and most batteries will have some form of carrying handle, so we can lift those up, and our objective is to keep it as upright as we can to avoid the sulfuric acid, any possibility of it spilling out. So we're going to try and keep it as upright as we can as we physically lift it out, and we're going to place it then just straight down on the floor. So keeping it upright and lifting it out. So looking at the tray, what you'll notice is there is a metal lip at the back of the tray, and we have to insert, there's a lip around the base of the battery, we have to insert the battery back into that, and that holds it in place, and then the bolt that we removed at the front holds it then, so that stops it rattling around. So we're going to have to position the battery in there. Obviously the larger battery is going to be slightly trickier to get into this battery tray. We'll try and keep it as upright as we can. We may have to angle it just a little bit to get it in there, but the objective is to keep it as upright as possible, and obviously keep all of these leads out of the way and make sure they don't get snagged as we're inserting the battery. So we'll give that a try now. Okay, so we're inserting the battery in there, trying to keep it as upright as possible. So we get it down onto the tray and slide it back in. So as you can see, that one is a much snugger fit than the previous, but it does fit fine within the battery compartment. So the next thing we can do is now reinsert the securing plate and bolt. And there are various little lugs on this plate. You can put it in either direction depending which best suits the battery. As you can see, there are little grooves in the battery, so we'll try and locate that in one of those grooves, and then just start threading the bolt finger tight. Make sure it's going in with fingers before you start using tools, otherwise you can cross thread it. So that's going in nicely. So got that located, and we can now just tighten that up with the ratchet. Just check that battery is then nice and secure. Obviously that's quite a weighty item, so you don't want that flipping around in your engine bay coming loose. So we're sure that's nice and secure. Having done that, the next thing is just to remove these two plastic transit clips to expose the terminals, and they can be discarded. You don't need those anymore once it's fitted. And we are now going to refit the terminal cables in the reverse of the way we undid them. So again, really important that we connect to the red cable first. So we're connecting that onto this post, making sure it's pushed well down, and give it a little tap down with a rubber mallet if it won't go down far enough, but that one's gone down fine. And then you just pinch the nuts up tight to hold the terminal. Don't want to over tighten these, but just make sure it's firm. And then finally we're going to connect the negative lead. You may hear a little crack and electrical spark, that's quite normal. And again, if you need to, you can tap that down. But we can just push that down nice and firmly and tighten it up. And so that is your battery replaced. Just tidy up any of these plastic areas which make up the battery tray, and then we simply reinstall the cover plate there and screw that down, and that's your battery reinstalled. So if it was if you've got a Volkswagen alarm and a Volkswagen radio, generally it should just start quite normally. However, if you've got an aftermarket alarm, obviously you needed to switch that off before starting. And you may have to reprogram that accordingly, following your own manufacturer's instructions.